Chapter 18. Parthenogenesis. According to the ovists, the female parent is held to afford all the materials necessary for the formation of the offspring, the male doing no more than awakening the formative powers possessed by, and lying dormant in, the female product. This was the theory of Pythagoras, adopted in modified form by Aristotle. Blondel, in his The Power of the Mother's Imagination over the Fetus, explain as follows the ovist theory, namely that the egg is a potential embryo. All parts of the fetus, both small and great, internal and external, are in the ovum, and though some appear later than others, yet they have been coexisting, and have had their beginning at the same time as an acorn, which, even before it be set in the ground, does contain an epitome of the oak, with all its roots, branches, and leaves. Blondel, The Power of the Mother's Imagination over the Fetus. In 1762, Bonnet performed parthenogenic experiments which disproved the old theory of the spermatists, propounded by Galen, that in the male semen there were seeds which entered into the eggs and there developed into embryos, and which supported the ovist theory, as modern parthenogenic experiments now do, that in the ovum, and in the ovum alone, are contained the germinal potentialities of the future organism. As Professor Lester Ward said, life begins as female. Life is feminine. In woman is the creative center. That everything proceeds from the egg, the vital focus, is the verdict of biology. The present theory of conception as due to spermatoza and ova was held by the medical profession only since the middle of the last century. Previous to this time, a theory was held known as the ora seminalis theory, according to which the semen of the male does not fertilize the egg by material contact, but by an aura or radiation it gives off. This theory was subsequently disproven by experiments performed by Spallanzani, repeated by Prévost and Dumas in 1848. According to recent scientific investigations, spermatoza add no new germinal material to the eggs they fertilize, but act as catalytical agents, chemically stimulating them to cell division and embryonic growth. These parthenogenic experiments directly disprove the Weismannian theory of germ cell inheritance, and demonstrate that organisms which ordinarily reproduce sexually have a latent parthenogenic capacity which improved environmental conditions and appropriate stimuli may evoke. Primordial forms of life all reproduce parthenogenically. It is only when outer conditions are unfavorable, and when they are devitalized, that they resort to a sexual mode of reproduction. However, as soon as external conditions are improved, and their strength increases, they return to their original parthenogenic method of generation. Since chemical activity is essentially an electrical process, due to charged ions in solution, we may say that fertilization is an electromagnetic stimulation of the ovum to embryonic development. This has been proven by biological experiments. Lilly and Hinrichs of the University of Chicago have virtually created life with rays. The eggs of the sea urchin when laid by the female must be fertilized by the sperm of the male in order to produce young. These scientists were able to fertilize the eggs with rays alone. As Dr. Hinrichs stated, this eliminated the male entirely, for the egg became a swimming fish without the male sperm. The only father these fish had was radiation. One of the most remarkable phenomena in the field of parthenogenesis is that of dermoid cysts, the parthenogenic development of an embryo within the human body. It has been demonstrated that these cystic growths contain, unquestionably, the vestigial embryonic remains of human growths, analogous to that of female gestation, hair, teeth, skin, flesh, bones, tissues, glands, portions of the scalp, face, eye, rib, vertebral column, umbilical cord, even the embryonic sac. They are frequently found in virgins or very young females. In Volume 8 of the Reference Handbook of the Medical Sciences, it is stated, the most characteristic feature of ovarian dermoids and solid teratoma is the fact that they contain tissues derived from all three of the germ layers, their structure giving the impression of a rudimentary embryo. According to Wilm and others, a parthenogenic development of an unfertilized ovum may be assumed. That many of these so-called cystic growths may be actual embryos which have been immaculately, or electromagnetically conceived, to the ignorance of both patient and physician, is illustrated by the following case quoted by Dr. Kish, in his book, The Sexual Life of Woman, a girl who, in consequence either of actual intercourse or it may be merely of too intimate an embrace of a man, fears she has become pregnant and actually suffers from amenorrhea, cessation of menstruation, though pregnancy does not really exist. I saw a case in which amenorrhea was thus produced in a girl of 17 years of age, whose ideas on the process of sexual intercourse were still far from clear. She had permitted a young man to kiss her repeatedly and fervently, and to clasp her in close embrace. She was then afraid that she had become pregnant. The catamenial flow, which had been regular since she was 15 years old, ceased to appear. This quotation has been made not because this case is an authentic instance of immaculate conception, but to demonstrate the fact that there exists in the female an instinctive feeling, which is barely suspected by the male, that an immaculate conception is possible.